The War Council room aboard the human battleship Defiant was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Admiral James Reyes stood at the holographic table, his weathered face lit by the blue glow of the star map floating before him. Around him sat the commanders of humanity's last hope, a fleet of 47 ships against the Vorthak Empire's armada of 300. "They outnumber us 6-1, said Captain Elena Vasquez, her voice steady despite the grim numbers. "Our scouts confirm they will reach the Helios system in 18 hours. If they take Helios, they control the gateway to Earth." Admiral Reyes nodded slowly. He had fought the Vorthak for 15 years, ever since their warships first appeared at the edge of human space. The insectoid aliens were brutal, efficient, and utterly convinced of their superiority. They had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy. Now they wanted humanity. "We cannot win a direct battle," Reyes said. He tapped the holographic display, and it shifted to show the Kronos Nebula, a vast cloud of dust and gas that stretched across 3 light-years. "But we do not need to win a direct battle. We need to win this war." Commander David Chen leaned forward, his cybernetic eye clicking as it focused on the display. "Sir, the Kronos Nebula disrupts sensors and shields. The Vorthak have avoided it in every previous engagement." "Exactly." Reyes allowed himself a small smile. "They avoid it because their technology cannot handle the interference. But our ships were built for different conditions. Our engineers designed our vessels to operate in harsh environments. The nebula will hurt them far more than it hurts us." Captain Maria Santos of the destroyer Lightning raised her hand. "An ambush in the nebula. It is risky, Admiral. If they detect us before we strike, we will be trapped." "They will not detect us." Reyes pulled up a new image, a small probe with unusual markings. "Our science teams have been working on something special, stealth drones that emit Vorthak ship signatures. We will scatter them throughout the nebula. When the enemy's sensors try to find us, they will see ghosts everywhere." The commanders exchanged glances. It was bold. It was desperate. It was exactly the kind of plan that had kept humanity alive this long. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, the youngest officer at the table, spoke up. "What about the civilian evacuation? If we fail, Helios Station has over 2 million people." "The evacuation transports are already moving," Reyes replied. "But they need time, 48 hours minimum. Our job is to buy them that time, whatever it costs." The words hung in the air. Every officer understood what the Admiral was saying. This was not just a battle. This was a sacrifice. Reyes looked around the table at the faces of his commanders. They were tired. They were afraid. But beneath the exhaustion and fear, he saw something else. Determination. Pride. The stubborn refusal to surrender that had defined humanity since the first cave dwellers fought predators with sticks and stones. "The Vorthak believe we are beaten," Reyes said quietly. "They have watched us retreat for 3 years. They have seen our colonies burn. They think we are prey running from a predator. They are wrong. We are not running. We have been waiting for the right moment, the right place. This is that moment. This is that place." He straightened to his full height. "In 18 hours, the Vorthak fleet will enter the Kronos Nebula. They will expect to find nothing but dust and shadow. Instead, they will find us. And we will teach them something they have never learned in all their years of conquest. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not break. And when you corner us, when you think you have won, that is when we are most dangerous." The commanders rose to their feet, a silent salute to their admiral and to the battle ahead. 4 hours later, the human fleet slipped into the Kronos Nebula like ghosts fading into mist. The ships moved in complete radio silence, communicating only through laser bursts that could not be detected at range. Each captain knew their position, their targets, and their role in the ambush. Aboard the Defiant, Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge and watched the swirling clouds of the nebula wrap around his fleet. The beautiful purple and gold gases hid dangers within, pockets of radiation, fields of debris from ancient stellar explosions, and electromagnetic storms that could disable a ship in seconds. It was no place for a fleet action. That was exactly why they were here. "All ships in position," reported Commander Chen from the tactical station. "Stealth drones deployed. The Vorthak should be seeing sensor contacts across a 10,000-kilometer spread." "Good." Ray's turned to the weapons officer, a stocky man named Lieutenant Commander Bruce Thompson. "Status of our surprise." Thompson grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. "The mining charges are placed on 17 asteroids throughout the approach corridor. Each one is rigged with enough explosives to crack a battleship in half. The moment we trigger them, those rocks become missiles. And the Vorthak will never see them coming," Captain Vasquez added. "Their sensors cannot distinguish between normal asteroids and our weapons in this interference." The hours crept by. Crew members ate their meals in silence, checked their equipment, and wrote final messages to loved ones that might never be sent. Some prayed. Some simply stared at the walls of their quarters, lost in thought. But when the call to battle stations came, every single one of them was ready. The Vorthak fleet appeared at the edge of the nebula exactly on schedule. 300 ships in perfect formation, their sleek black hulls designed to inspire terror in their enemies. At the center of the formation flew the Dominance, the massive command ship of Fleet Master Krikstal. The Vorthak commander had personally overseen the destruction of 8 species. He expected humanity to be the 9th. "They are entering the nebula," reported the sensor officer, her voice tight with tension. "Formation is standard conquest pattern. Battleships in the center, escorts on the flanks." Rays watched the enemy ships push into the swirling gases. Already their shields were flickering as the nebula's interference ate at their power systems. Their sensor sweeps were scattered and confused, picking up the ghost signals from the decoy drones. "Wait," Rays commanded. "Let them come deeper." On the Dominance, Fleet Master Krikstal clicked his mandibles in irritation. The nebula was annoying but not dangerous. His fleet would pass through in a few hours and then crush the pathetic human defense at Helios. After that, their homeworld would be open. "Sensor contacts scattered," reported his second officer. "Possible human ships, but readings are inconsistent." "Ghosts in the dust," Krikstal said dismissively. "The humans are running, they always run. Continue on course." He could not have been more wrong. Deep within the nebula, hidden among the asteroids and gas clouds, Admiral Rays raised his hand. Around him, the bridge crew held their breath. The moment had come. 15 years of war, 3 years of retreat, millions of human lives lost. It all came down to this. "All ships," Rays said, his voice calm and clear. "Attack." The first explosions lit up the nebula like new stars being born. The mining charges detonated in sequence, hurling asteroids at incredible speed into the flanks of the Vorthak fleet. Shields that were already weakened by the nebula interference collapsed instantly. 8 escort ships vanished in the first 5 seconds. "Vorthak fleet taking damage," Commander Chen reported, his voice rising with excitement. "They are in chaos. Their formation is breaking." "Press the attack." Rays gripped the railing of the command platform. "All ships forward, show them what we are made of." The human fleet surged out of hiding, guns blazing. Captain Vasquez brought the Defiant alongside a Vorthak battleship that was twice her size. The enemy vessel was struggling to raise shields, its systems confused by the nebula and the sudden attack. Vasquez did not give it time to recover. "Fire all batteries." The Defiant's weapons tore into the Vorthak ship, ripping through armor that would have stopped the attack in open space. In the nebula, with shields failing and sensors blind, the enemy was vulnerable. The battleship shuddered and then exploded, debris spinning away into the purple clouds. Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out. Human destroyers darted between the larger Vorthak ships, hitting them from angles their weapons could not cover. Human cruisers worked in pairs, boxing in enemy vessels and pounding them with concentrated fire. The Vorthak tried to respond, but their targeting systems could not lock onto ships that appeared and disappeared in the swirling gases. Fleet Master Crixtal stared at the chaos around him with disbelief. This was not possible. The humans were inferior. They were beaten. How were they doing this? All ships maintain formation, he ordered, his voice harsh with fury. Concentrate fire on the nearest targets. But his orders could not be followed. The nebula was disrupting communications. His carefully coordinated fleet was breaking into individual ships fighting their own desperate battles. And the humans, these weak creatures that should have been conquered months ago, were destroying them piece by piece. "Sir, we have lost 37 ships," his second officer reported, fear creeping into his voice. "Another 20 are heavily damaged. The humans are cutting through our escorts." Crixtal watched a nearby cruiser take a direct hit from a human torpedo. The blast tore the ship apart, sending bodies and debris spinning into the void. For the first time in his long career, Fleet Master Crixtal felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. The battle raged through the nebula for 3 hours. Human ships moved like sharks through murky water, striking and withdrawing before the Vorthak could respond. The ambush had been perfect. The strategy had been flawless, but victory was not yet certain. Aboard the destroyer Lightning, Captain Maria Santos was fighting for her life. 3 Vorthak escorts had cornered her ship against an asteroid field. Her shields were failing, her weapons running low on ammunition. "Engineering, I need more power to engines," she shouted over the sound of explosions rocking her ship. "Rerouting everything we have, Captain, but they hit our main reactor. We are running on backups." Santos made a decision. It was the kind of decision that separated good captains from great ones. "Helm, take us into the asteroid field, full speed." "Ma'am, the field is too dense. We will collide with something." "Do it," Santos gripped her command chair. "The Vorthak cannot follow us in there. Their ships are too big and their pilots are too cautious. But we are humans. We do not know the meaning of caution." The Lightning dove into the asteroid field at maximum velocity. Rocks the size of houses tumbled past the viewports, missing the hull by meters. The pilot's hands flew across the controls, making adjustments faster than thought. The crew held on and prayed. Behind them, 2 of the Vorthak escorts tried to follow. The first one clipped an asteroid and spun out of control, crashing into a larger rock and exploding. The second pulled away, unwilling to risk the same fate. The third escort circled around the field, waiting for the Lightning to emerge. Captain Santos saw it on her damaged sensors. She smiled grimly. "Bring us around. We are going back out right at them." "Captain, our weapons are almost empty." "I know." Santos stood and looked at her crew. They were scared, they were exhausted, they were magnificent. "But we still have our ship, and a human ship is the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. Helm, ramming speed." The Lightning burst from the asteroid field and drove straight at the waiting escort. The Vorthak captain had 1 second to realize what was happening before the human destroyer crashed through his shields and into his ship. Both vessels disappeared in a ball of fire. Admiral Reyes felt the loss through the fleet communications. Another ship gone, another crew dead, but their sacrifice had meaning. The Vorthak formation was completely shattered. The enemy fleet was trying to retreat, but the nebula that had hidden the human ambush now trapped them. "Admiral, the Dominance is trying to break away," Commander Chen reported. "Fleet Master Crixtal is running." "Not today, he is not." Reyes turned to his communications officer. "Signal all available ships. We are going after the command vessel. If we take down their leader, this war might finally turn in our favor." 7 human ships broke away from the main battle and chased the Dominance through the nebula. The massive Vorthak command ship was damaged but still dangerous. its weapons capable of destroying any of the pursuing vessels with a single hit. But the humans did not care about the danger. They had been running for too long. It was time to hunt. The chase lasted 20 minutes. The Dominance was fast for its size, but the human ships were faster and more agile. They spread out around the command ship, blocking its escape routes and herding it deeper into the nebula. Fleet Master Crystal stood on his bridge, watching his options disappear. His fleet was being destroyed behind him. His ship was surrounded. For the first time, he understood how his victims had felt in the moment before their worlds died. "Hail the human fleet," he ordered. His second officer stared at him in shock. "Do it. I would speak with their commander." Aboard the Defiant, Admiral Reyes received the transmission with surprise. In 15 years of war, the Vorthak had never attempted communication. They considered humans too primitive to negotiate with. "On screen," he ordered. The insected face of Fleet Master Crystal appeared on the main viewer. His compound eyes glittered with emotions Reyes could not read. "Human Commander," Crystal said, his translator turning his clicks and chirps into cold English. "You have fought well. Your ambush was effective. I offer a proposal." "I am listening." "Allow the Dominance to withdraw. In exchange, I will order the remainder of my fleet to stand down. You will have your victory. I will have my ship and my life. This is reasonable." Reyes considered the offer for exactly 2 seconds. "Fleet Master, do you remember the colony of New Shanghai? 200,000 humans lived there before your fleet arrived." Crystal was silent. "Do you remember Praxis Minor, a peaceful research station with no military value? Your ships bombarded it for 6 hours. There were children on that station." "War has casualties," Crystal said, but his voice was less certain now. "And do you remember the 7th Fleet?" Reyes stepped closer to the view screen, his eyes burning with cold fury. 8,000 sailors who surrendered after their ships were disabled. Your warriors killed every single one of them. You called it mercy because a quick death was kinder than slavery. I offered them the choice of the Dominance. It was more than their species deserved." Admiral Reyes smiled. It was not a kind expression. "Let me offer you a choice, Fleet Master. You can surrender your ship and your fleet unconditionally. You and your surviving crew will be taken prisoner and treated according to human laws. You will face trial for your crimes, or you can fight. And you will die in this nebula, as so many humans have died fighting your empire." Crystal's mandibles clicked rapidly. Rage and fear warred in his alien expression. "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire? You are nothing. Your species is young and weak. You should be grateful we offered you conquest instead of extinction." "We are young," Reyes agreed. "And we are sometimes weak, but we have something your empire lacks. We have hope. We have the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. You conquer because you fear. You destroy because you cannot create. That is why you will lose this war, Fleet Master, not because of this battle, but because you have forgotten how to dream." For a long moment, Crystal stared at the human admiral. Then he straightened, his armored body clicking into a fighting stance. "The Vorthak do not surrender. The Dominance will destroy you all." The view screen went dark. Admiral Reyes turned to his crew. "You heard him. All ships attack." The final battle for the Dominance was brutal and short. The command ship's weapons claimed 2 more human vessels, but there were too many attackers from too many angles. The Defiant led the final assault, its remaining weapons pounding the enemy shields until they failed. A spread of torpedoes tore into the Dominance's engine section. The massive ship shuddered and began to drift, power failing across its hull. On the bridge, Fleet Master Crystal felt his ship dying around him. "For the Empire," he whispered, and reached for the self-destruct control. He never reached it. A final hit from the Defiant struck the bridge directly, killing the Fleet Master and his senior officers instantly. The Dominance went dark, a broken hulk spinning slowly through the nebula. In the aftermath of the battle, the surviving Vorthak ships scattered and ran. They had entered the nebula with 300 vessels. They left with 94, and most of those were damaged. The human fleet had lost 18 ships. Over 4,000 sailors and soldiers were dead. But they had won. Against impossible odds, through strategy, courage, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up, they had won. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the Defiant, looking out at the debris field that marked the greatest victory in human history. Around him, the crew was cheering and crying and hugging each other. He understood their relief. He shared it. But he also knew that this was only one battle. The Vorthak Empire was vast, and this defeat, though devastating, would not destroy them. There would be more battles, more sacrifices, more hard choices. "Sir," Commander Chen said quietly, stepping up beside the Admiral. "Helios Station is reporting. The evacuation is complete. All civilians are safe." Reyes nodded slowly. 2 million lives saved. That is worth everything we paid today. "Yes, sir, and sir, Command has sent a message. They want to know what we should call this battle for the history books." Reyes thought about it. He thought about the captains who had given their ships and their lives. He thought about the plan that had taken a desperate gamble and turned it into victory. He thought about humanity, young and afraid but never willing to quit. "The Battle of Kronos Nebula," he said finally, "where humanity learned that the stars can be ours if we are brave enough to fight for them." The message went out across the human colonies in the following days. The news spread from station to station, planet to planet. The Vorthak were not invincible. They could be beaten. They could be driven back. Humanity was no longer running. Humanity was fighting. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the Battle of Kronos Nebula, Admiral Reyes stood before the United Earth Council in the Great Chamber on Luna. The room was packed with representatives from every human colony, military leaders, and civilian officials. All of them were waiting to hear what came next. "The Vorthak Empire has retreated to their side of the border," Reyes reported, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. "Our intelligence suggests they are regrouping, rebuilding their fleet. They will return, but we have time now. Time to prepare, time to grow stronger." Chancellor Diana Torres, the leader of the council, leaned forward. "How long, Admiral? How long before they attack again?" "My analysts estimate 18 months to 2 years. The losses at Kronos Nebula were catastrophic for them, not just in ships but in confidence. The Vorthak have never lost a battle of that scale. Their empire is built on the belief that they are unbeatable. We shattered that belief." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some of the representatives looked hopeful, others looked skeptical. "Admiral," said Representative Chen Wei of the Mars colony, "we are grateful for your victory, but can we truly defeat the Vorthak? Their empire spans 100 star systems. They have been conquering species for thousands of years. We are one species on a few dozen worlds." Reyes had expected this question. He had been thinking about it for months, ever since the dominance broke apart in the nebula. "Representative Chen, you are correct that the Vorthak are ancient and powerful, but that is also their weakness. They have been doing the same thing for so long that they have forgotten how to change. They use the same tactics, the same formations, the same strategies that conquered species 1,000 years ago. Why change what works?" He activated a holographic display that showed the nebula battle. "Look at what we did. We used the environment against them. We turned their strengths into weaknesses. We thought differently. And we won." "One battle," another representative interjected. "One battle does not win a war." "No, it does not, but it proves that the war can be won. And that is what I want to talk about today." Reyes tapped his control and the display changed to show a galactic map. "The Vorthak have conquered dozens of species. Most of those species are now dead, their cultures erased, their histories forgotten, but not all of them." The map highlighted several star systems deep within Vorthak territory. There are resistance movements on occupied worlds, slave populations who remember what freedom meant. They have been fighting alone for generations, believing no one would ever come to help them. What if we changed that? Chancellor Tors raised an eyebrow. You are suggesting we extend the war deeper into their territory. I am suggesting we turn the war into something bigger than humanity versus the Vorthak. I am suggesting we build an alliance of free species against the Empire. We cannot win alone, but together we might do more than survive. We might win. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives called the plan brilliant, others called it suicide. The argument lasted for hours. In the end, the vote was close, but it passed. Humanity was going on the offensive. The first contact mission launched 6 weeks later. A small fleet of fast ships, loaded with diplomats and soldiers, slipped through Vorthak patrol zones and into the occupied territories. They carried messages of hope and offers of alliance. They also carried weapons, supplies, and training materials for the resistance. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the mission from the newly repaired Defiant. She had been promoted after the Nebula battle, and she had requested this assignment personally. "Are you sure about this?" Admiral Reyes asked her before departure. "This mission is dangerous. If the Vorthak catch you, they will not take prisoners." Vasquez smiled. "Then I will make sure they do not catch me. Besides, Admiral, you taught me that hope is a weapon. It is time we shared that weapon with others." The Defiant and her escort vessels vanished into hyperspace, carrying humanity's message to the stars. Their first contact was with the Telari, a species of tall, thin beings who had once been master engineers. The Vorthak had conquered them 80 years ago and put them to work building war machines. But in secret, the Telari had been sabotaging those machines, causing failures and malfunctions that the Vorthak blamed on faulty materials. The meeting took place on a hidden asteroid base deep in the Telari system. Captain Vasquez faced a Telari elder named Soren, his long fingers trembling with emotion as he heard her proposal. "You came for us?" Soren asked, his translator giving his words a musical quality. "After all these years, someone came." "We should have come sooner," Vasquez said. "We did not know. We were too busy trying to survive, but now we know and we are here." Soren was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and placed his hand on Vasquez's shoulder, a gesture of trust and friendship among his people. "Tell us what you need. The Telari will stand with you." Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds in the following months. The Krix, a warrior species who had been forced to serve as shock troops for the Empire. The Mendari, gentle philosophers who kept ancient knowledge alive in secret. The Vaughn, shapeshifters who had survived by becoming invisible in plain sight. Each species had their own reasons to hate the Vorthak. Each species had their own skills to offer. And each species, upon learning that humanity had defeated the Empire's fleet at Kronos Nebula, found something they had lost long ago: hope. On Earth, the war effort intensified. Factories that had been building civilian goods shifted to military production. Scientists who had been researching medicine and agriculture now designed weapons and shields. Young men and women from every colony signed up for military service in numbers that overwhelmed the training facilities. The Vorthak noticed. Their spies reported the alliance building in their occupied territories. Their scouts observed the expansion of the human fleet. Their leaders debated what to do. "We should crush them now," argued War Master Thraxus, the new commander of the Empire's forces. "Before they grow too strong, attack their homeworld and end this before it truly begins." But others disagreed. The losses at Kronos Nebula had shaken the Empire's confidence. Many believed that a second defeat would destroy the Vorthak completely. In the end, they chose to wait, to rebuild, to prepare for a war that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Admiral Reyes used that time wisely. He trained his captains in the tactics that had won the Nebula battle. He integrated the allied species into his fleet, learning from their different perspectives and abilities. He built new ships with technology shared by the Telari and improved by human engineers. And he planned. Every night he sat in his quarters and studied maps and reports and intelligence. He thought about the battles to come. He thought about the lives that would be lost and the victories that might be won. He thought about humanity's place in the stars. "You should sleep," Commander Chen told him one evening, finding the admiral still awake at 3 in the morning. "Cannot sleep, too much to think about." Chen sat down across from him. "You know the crew calls you the architect. They say you see patterns no one else can see, battles before they happen." Reyes shook his head. "I do not see battles, I see possibilities. I see what might happen if we make one choice versus another, and I try to choose the path that leads to victory." "And if there is no path to victory?" The admiral was quiet for a long moment. "Then I look again, because there is always a path. Sometimes it is hidden, sometimes it is dangerous, sometimes it costs more than we want to pay, but it is there. The universe does not create problems without solutions. We just have to be smart enough and brave enough to find them." Chen nodded slowly. "You really believe that?" "I have to." Reyes looked out the viewport at the stars. "Because if I stop believing it, I have nothing left to fight for, and I refuse to stop fighting. Not while there are people counting on me, not while there is hope." 2 years after the Battle of Kronos Nebula, the Vorthak Empire launched its counterattack. This time, they did not send one fleet. They sent 5, 300 ships in each fleet, coordinated by a network of command vessels that maintained constant communication. War Master Thraxus led the invasion personally. He had learned from Crixtal's defeat. He would not underestimate the humans again. The first fleet struck at the Telari system, attempting to crush the rebellion before it could spread. The second fleet targeted the Crix homeworld, to punish the warriors who had betrayed their masters. The third and fourth fleets advanced toward human space from different angles, preventing any concentrated defense. The fifth fleet held in reserve, ready to exploit any weakness. Admiral Reyes received the reports and immediately called his commanders together. "This is it," he said, looking around the war room at the faces of humans and aliens united in common cause. "The moment we have been preparing for. The Vorthak have committed everything they have. This will not be one battle. It will be many battles across many systems, all happening at once." Captain Vasquez, now commanding her own battle group, spoke first. "Can we win?" "Yes," Reyes did not hesitate. "But not the way they expect, not by matching them fleet for fleet. We need to do what we did at Kronos Nebula. We need to change the game." He activated the holographic display. "The Vorthak are using a coordinated network of command ships. Those vessels are their strength. They allow the 5 fleets to operate as one. But they are also a weakness. If we can disable the network, the fleets will become isolated, confused, unable to coordinate." "How do we disable the network?" asked Soren, representing the Telari forces. Reyes smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when planning the Nebula ambush. "The Telari have been sabotaging Vorthak equipment for 80 years. I think it is time to sabotage something really important." The plan was complex and dangerous. Telari agents, hidden among the slave workers on Vorthak command ships, would simultaneously disable the communication systems when given the signal. At the same moment, Allied fleets would strike at key points along the Vorthak advance, creating confusion and chaos. It would require perfect timing. It would require incredible bravery. It would require luck. But most of all, it would require hope. Hope that the plan would work. Hope that the sacrifice would be worth it. Hope that a better future was possible. "We have one chance," Reyes told his commanders. "One moment when everything comes together. When we strike that moment, we strike with everything we have. No retreating, no regrouping. We either win or we lose everything." The commanders exchanged glances. Human and Telari and Crix and Mendari and Vaughn, all of them looking at each other across species and cultures and histories, all of them understanding what was being asked. One by one they nodded. "Then let us begin," Admiral Reyes said, "and may whatever powers guide the universe grant us victory." The final campaign of the HFY War lasted 47 days. History would remember it as the most complex military operation ever attempted by any species. Battles raged across dozens of star systems. Ships were destroyed and built and destroyed again. Heroes rose and fell, their names remembered forever by the peoples they protected. Admiral Reyes commanded from the Defiant, directing the overall strategy while his captains fought their individual battles. He slept 2 hours per night, ate meals at his command console, and made decisions that would determine the fate of billions. And in the end, his plan worked. When the Telari agents disabled the Vorthak command network, the effect was immediate and devastating. Fleets that had been operating in perfect coordination suddenly found themselves isolated. Orders stopped coming. Captains who had never made independent decisions were forced to think for themselves. Many of them failed. The human alliance struck at those moments of confusion, hitting the scattered Vorthak ships before they could reorganize. The Crix warriors, fighting for their freedom with a fury the Vorthak had never seen, tore through enemy formations. The Telari engineers turned sabotage into an art form, causing Vorthak ships to malfunction at critical moments. The Mendari used their knowledge of ancient technology to protect allied vessels from enemy weapons. The Vaughn infiltrated and confused and disrupted. And the humans led it all, young and small and new to the stars, but never willing to quit, never willing to give up, fighting for their future and the future of all free species. On the 37th day, War Master Thraxus realized the war was lost. His fleets were shattered. His command network was destroyed. His empire was crumbling around him. He could have surrendered. He could have saved what remained of his forces and negotiated a peace. But the Vorthak did not surrender. It was not in their nature. Thraxus gathered his remaining ships around his flagship, the Eternal Dominance, and prepared for a final battle. If the Empire was to die, it would die fighting. Admiral Reyes accepted the challenge. He brought the Defiant and the best ships in his fleet to face the last of the Vorthak armada, not because it was necessary. The war was already won, but because some things needed to end face to face. The two fleets met in open space, far from any planet or station. The Vorthak had 100 ships. The Alliance had 150. It would have been an easy victory. But Reyes did not want an easy victory. He wanted something more important. He opened a channel to the Eternal Dominance. War Master Thraxus, this is Admiral James Reyes. You have lost. Your empire is finished. I offer you the same terms I offered Fleet Master Crixtal, unconditional surrender. Your crew will be treated fairly. Your wounded will be healed. Your dead will be honored. Thraxus appeared on the view screen. His compound eyes studied the human admiral with something like respect. You are different from other prey, Thraxus said. You fight with intelligence, with creativity, with, what is the word you use, hope. Yes, hope. I have commanded Vorthak fleets for 60 years. I have conquered 17 worlds. I have never encountered a species like yours. You should have been easy to defeat. You were small, weak, young, and yet here you stand and my empire burns. Reyes said nothing. He simply waited. I will not surrender, Thraxus continued. The Vorthak do not surrender, but, he paused, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. I would know something before the end. How did you do it? How did a species so young defeat an empire so old? Admiral Reyes thought about the question. He thought about the battle of Kronos Nebula. He thought about the alliance of free species. He thought about the men and women who had given their lives for this moment. We believed, he said finally. We believed in ourselves. We believed in each other. We believed that no matter how dark things got, there was always a way forward, and we never stopped looking for it. Thraxus was silent for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Hope, such a small thing, and yet it broke an empire. He straightened on his command platform. Very well, Admiral Reyes, let us finish this, for the glory of the Vorthak and the future you have earned. The view screen went dark. The final battle was fierce but brief. The Vorthak fought with desperate courage, but they were outmatched and outnumbered. One by one, their ships were destroyed. The Eternal Dominance held out longest, its massive weapons claiming 3 allied vessels before concentrated fire brought down its shields. In the end, War Master Thraxus died on his bridge, as Fleet Master Crixtal had died before him. The last supreme commander of the Vorthak Empire, facing his enemies to the final moment. Admiral Reyes felt no joy at the victory, only relief that it was over. The aftermath of the war was complicated and difficult. The Vorthak Empire did not simply disappear. There were occupied worlds to liberate, refugee populations to resettle, and war criminals to try. There were arguments about borders and resources and the shape of the new galactic order. But through it all, the Alliance held. Humans and Telari and Crix and Mendari and Vaughn worked together to build something new. Not an empire, but a federation. A partnership of free species, united by the memory of what they had endured and the hope of what they could become. Admiral Reyes retired 3 years after the war ended. He had given everything he had to the cause. It was time to rest. On his final day in uniform, he stood before the graduates of the newly established Alliance Military Academy. Young officers from a dozen species, training together to defend the peace they had won. The Vorthak believed that strength came from conquest, Reyes told them. They believed that the universe was a place of competition where only the strongest survived. They were wrong. True strength comes from connection, from cooperation, from the understanding that we are stronger together than we could ever be alone. He looked out at the young faces watching him. Human and alien, male and female, all of them representing the future he had fought for. The war we won was not just a war of ships and weapons. It was a war of ideas. And the idea that won was simple: hope. The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. That we can choose to help each other instead of hurt each other. That courage and creativity and compassion can overcome any enemy. He paused, feeling the weight of years and battles pressing on him. But when he spoke again, his voice was strong. Never forget that. Never forget what hope can do. Because as long as you remember, as long as you believe, the darkness will never win. Humanity and our allies will keep reaching for the stars, and nothing in the universe can stop us. The graduates rose and saluted, not just the humans, but all of them. A salute to the man who had led them through the darkness and into the light. Admiral James Reyes saluted back. Then he turned and walked away, into a future that was brighter than anyone had ever imagined. Behind him, the stars were waiting, and humanity, together with their friends and allies, was ready to meet them. The war was over, the victory was won, and the greatest adventure was just beginning.